Welcome to Displacer Geeks. My name is Brian.
And I'm Hudson, and we're two geeks talking about the geek. And
Hudson,
today we have a great new guest person, don't we, Brian? Why don't you introduce him?
we do. I totally interrupted you there. This is Jessen. He actually plays D&D with us. How you doing,
Hello,
Jessen?
everybody. I'm Jessen, and I'm new to D&D.
Today we want to get the perspective of a new player. Jessen's been playing for about a year now, and we thought it'd be super fun to pick his brain. So, Jessen, when did you start playing role-playing games, and why did you start playing role-playing games?
Gosh, I think, like you said, it's been a little over a year now. I think the biggest reason I started was just because I've been around it my entire life with my dad and my uncle. Newsflash to everybody, Brian is my uncle. I grew up around you guys and your friends, Hudson, amongst many others, just being in my basement every Wednesday, essentially my whole life, playing games. And then yeah, once I moved back home, I was like, I'll come over and join you guys and check it out, see what it's about.
So, question for you. Since you grew up around it, it didn't feel like you ever wanted to play with us. What was the big change?
No, I mean, I think in all honesty, growing up around it, especially with it being my dad playing it, there was a stigma around it that made it feel like it was extra nerdy to some degree.
Uh-huh. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's nerdy. I
Uh-huh.
don't do that. Yeah, I was just like, I don't want to play those same games.
Yeah,
And
don't yeah,
then,
get it?
I guess as I got older, I started to look at it more and realize, wait, I kind of do play these games just on my Xbox. Like
Great.
I play video
Yeah.
games that I'm playing and this and that. I was like, oh, kind of the same thing. I'll just try it out for in real life.
Awesome. Awesome. Are you surprised, Hudson, that since Mark played these, Justin, it sounds kind of like, yeah,
No,
it's not
no,
very cool.
no.
I'm not surprised, yeah.
But
Shockingly, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Justin kind of, touched a little bit on a topic we were thinking about talking about him with. You were saying that you played a lot of like RPG video games.
Hmm.
So what would you consider the pros and cons of like the video game versus the tabletop?
You know, I think that I was really like underestimating my imagination and like
Oh,
how good that does for you when you're playing not in front of a screen, when you're letting your mind paint the picture. You can create really cool things essentially. Not to go off on too big of a tangent down there, but in our current campaign, I'm playing a druid. And then in the video game Baldur's Gate, I created a druid. And in the game, I've got these visuals and I'm just like it kind of killed it for me a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't get to see my armor, this and that. Like I'm just looking at a bear the whole time. But then when we're playing it role playing and my imagination is there, it's like I can picture it how I want to picture it. I'm not stuck with what some other visual artist created for me, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That's awesome. What else do you think about the role playing in the video game format over tabletop? What do you think? What else stands out to you?
There's more constraints. Even as perfect as a video game may be, there's still some code written somewhere that's going to prohibit you from doing something.
Yeah,
Um, and you could argue that maybe those same constraints could exist in D&D, depending on what the DM has in mind for what players are able to do. But you don't know that. You don't know that until you try it, and you might find out the hard way that something's
yeah,
not doable.
for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Justin, playing with you has been awesome because I can tell right away you're super imaginative and a lot of the things you come up with are awesome. You're really good at staying in character. It kind of blows my mind, honestly. Let's talk about Justin's crazy start to playing role-playing games. So, first off, I'm embarrassed because I've demoed role-playing games for people all my life, and when Justin came into play, I have no idea why, but instead of just having him sit down and play a session, I did like these practice scenarios. It was Justin, I didn't do it justice. I'm sorry. I like was so worried that he was gonna be like, this is stupid, I'm out. But I did like practice scenarios for some dumb reason. But luckily stayed with us. But the other thing about his hard start was, I'm pretty sure it was the first time you ever played a full session recording on a podcast.
Yep. Everything all at once. Yep. First
Yeah.
time playing, first time in front of a microphone. I
Oh
gotta
boy. So if you don't know, Hudson and I and Justin are on part of the podcast D4 on the Floor. It's a storytelling podcast through RPGs. And so playing on a podcast or for a podcast very different because we're trying to like not talk over each other and we're trying to stay in character a lot and we're trying to keep the flow going, talk into the mic and blah 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 blah. And we did that to Justin right away after I did those terrible demos for him. But he stuck around, so he must really like it.
Well,
Yeah, it's proven to be a good time.
one thing that I observed, right? So for as much as you bash those practice scenarios, he seemed to have a pretty reasonable understanding of the rules going in to that first session.
That's a good point. That's a
So
good point.
for as much as you were like, maybe it wasn't the best way to do it, but it did have a positive. He did seem to understand how to play the game.
I got a question for you, Justin. So as a new player, was it super confusing at first? Like, because tabletop role playing games are so weird compared to any other games if you've never played one. What was it super confusing and like alien to you, or was it not that hard to figure out?
Um, I mean, there's some confusing elements, but having just the player's handbook was enough really to get going. It just kind of
Awesome.
was a matter of sitting down for, devoting 30 minutes at least just to, okay, what race do I want to be? What class do I want to be? Okay, how do I get my starting stats, this and that.
Okay.
So that was the most challenging part. Once we got moving though, I found it to be pretty basic, really,
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you think because you played so many RPG role playing or RPG video games that helped you figure out tabletop D&D?
I, I think it might have, going into it, I had a good understanding of what stats meant, whereas someone that's
Cool.
brand new to that, might have to ask, what is charisma? What is dexterity going to give me, whatever it
Yeah.
be. So I did have that going into it, and I also did have the benefit of having you guys in my corner, to kind of
Yeah.
guide me through some of that. But yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Another question for you, because I honestly don't remember. Have you played a role-playing tabletop game yet that hasn't been recorded for a podcast? Because you've been
No,
playing.
no, I've only
Nope.
played on podcast. Yeah.
We are making this experience so weird for you. Like that is not normal.
Hey, Justin, do you want to go play like a Roll20 like one shot sometime?
Yeah,
No
that's what we'll have to
kidding.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I am redoing my basement right now, and I'm gonna make a game table and everything. So I'm down for some more random RPGs throughout the week. I'm ready for it. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Be super awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I jumped into things when you guys were already starting your third campaign. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
things
this
were already
is
in the flow of podcasting and recording, and yeah.
yeah, and it's so much easier without doing the podcast. You get a lot more done.
Well, luckily I was growing up, like I've grown up around podcasts, I listen to them all the time. So
Yeah.
I did have that understanding of like this, stay on track to
Yeah,
some degree, Um,
sure.
whereas I can't imagine how it was for you guys having lived your lives role playing and then deciding, okay, let's throw in this new roadblock, if you will, or new constraints.
Yeah.
That was a little different.
Yeah, it get everybody on the same page was bumpy at times, I feel like.
Sure.
Just
Still
because
is.
it still is, yes.
Still
Because
is.
we have different wants and needs or desires or whatever, and different levels of what we want this to be. And yeah,
Yeah,
well, you're phenomenal at it, Justin, by the way.
I
Like
appreciate it.
you can describe things so much better than I can, that's for
That's
sure.
one of my favorite parts, Yeah, it's
Oh, you're so good at it.
yeah,
You're so
it's
good
been
at it.
good.
How about this? We've got what is your favorite moment or thing about role playing so far? Like, if you were to stop and think for a second, what's your favorite thing so far about tabletop role playing?
I think for me, I know some people love combat, some people it's not their favorite part of role playing. I think mine's kind of a mix. I love describing combat, you know.
Oh, cool.
I think that kind of to bring it back to the video games, you know, it might be, oh, my guy has this cool sword, and whenever I hit this button, he swings it this way. Well, but he always swings it that way because he was coded to do it that way.
Yeah,
I don't have to do that, you know. I can describe how someone does a certain action that is specific to how I'm feeling in that particular moment, and that's pretty sweet, you know.
very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What was your favorite combat moment so far in your role playing?
I don't want to give any spoilers away to anyone that might be listening to D4 when this current campaign drops. But there is a moment when Kale, who I mentioned is a druid, learns the spell Moonbeam.
Yep, I
It's a
figured.
chance to use it in a pretty sweet way, if I do say so myself.
Worked out very well.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a highlight for me. Yeah. And again, you know,
Awesome.
it comes down to is less about like the roles and just killing things and more like the scene was set up really cool for us by you. You know, I've got
Thank you.
Hudson and my dad and John, all their like just these characters coming together to build a cool scene that set it up for Caleb to be like, all right, I'm gonna take advantage of this and
Awesome.
do something awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, what else was I going to ask? Something based off of that. Hudson, do you have anything?
Uh, so we talked about your favorite combat moment. What was your favorite non-combat moment?
Hmm.
Ooh, got him.
I I've got two things. One is specifically actually not me. I have to say that it
Oh,
was actually your character, Hudson.
Okay.
nice.
Again, I don't want to do any spoilers, but there's maybe an evening where it's in the group's best interest to lay low and just call it a night in a certain inn that we're at, and a certain somebody gets hungry and has an itch for some stew. And his means to get it is just great. The way the roles worked out that night just like added to this, you know, a funny level or like a good level of humor that even though the campaign's not a funny campaign at all, if that makes sense, you know,
Right.
which
Yeah,
is something we've
dark.
talked about. Yeah, it's this dark campaign, but it was like just this perfectly executed humor that wasn't slapsticky at all or anything. It just fit perfect. Um,
That's
and then on
awesome.
top of that, I think it's just those moments where you think you're about to do something cool and you roll your dice and it's three. You know, it's just those moments are always to me. Yeah. And
You
yeah.
Give the speech of a lifetime rolling that one. It's great.
Yeah, you know, you really think you're gonna talk your way through something and the dice aren't agreeing with you. And it keeps you human, I guess, while you're playing.
yeah,
Like,
you know what I just discovered about you, Justin? The last couple sessions I was recording, somehow you roll two a lot. And it's like you have the same delivery, you're like two.
yeah, I'm always
It's so
disappointed.
funny.
Uh-huh.
It's like the exact same two.
It's
Well,
a
in your
slap
way.
in the
Yeah.
face.
It's awesome. It's so good. It's so
And
good.
I
That's
have a
amazing.
knack for rolling nat 20s on in moments that aren't
Oh,
super crucial, but like so I'll roll nat 20s. I'm like, oh sweet, but it wasn't like when I really needed
I don't know. Lately, man, you've been on fire.
it.
All right. So speaking of the theme of our campaign, our current campaign is super dark, kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy. You have also played some one shots with us. At least one of my one shots that I ran, and I ran stupidly silly, absurd one shot, which oh no, you've done two of them now. The
Mhm.
GrenCon fantasy one, and we are recording a video game themed one right now, um, in a 2 or 3 part series. Do you have a favorite theme so far, or is anything kind of leaning one way, or does it not matter? Just kind of curious. What's your thought on that?
I don't know if I have a complete answer for that. I've been lucky enough to we're following this dark campaign, but then we've had those like slapstick episodes get thrown in there. So I've gotten the best of both worlds in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd get tired of doing just one for too long. That's
Yeah,
again the beauty of role playing, I guess. We didn't spend $70 on the new video game and you're stuck with whatever that theme is. We get
true,
to mix and match as we please. Um,
true.
but I mean, killing stuff in a dark scenario is pretty cool, and
It's super
being
cool.
on the edge of your seat playing and being scared is really cool. But then it's also really fun to just be cracking jokes with each other and seeing who can almost try to get the other person's character to crack while we're playing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure everybody loves to break the GM when the GM's just like laughing
It's the
nonstop and they
best.
can't continue
Yeah.
the game.
Uh-huh.
Listen, I got another question, but do you have any for him? Any thoughts, opinions?
Sorry, no, like
No,
you
that's
was
okay. It's all good. All right. Have you played any other? Well, I guess if you've only recorded for the podcast, I might know the answer to this. You've only played D&D so far, right?
I've only played D&D. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Because yep, yeah, the first thing we did was still D&D rules. I haven't done Shadowrun yet.
Okay. Is that one kind of in the back burner, like the
I
one
think
you want
that's
to check
just kind of
out?
the other one that comes to mind,
It's so good.
I think of you guys when I think of Shadowrun, and yeah,
Mm-hmm. I love D6 systems because the dice are not as swingy. Like you can kind of be like, okay, I need a 4. All right, with 2 dice, I know what I'm looking at. A
that's
D20,
yeah,
D20 is an 18 and then a
that's
2, and then a
yeah,
20 and then a 5.
for sure.
Awesome. Any other systems out there that you're kind of eyeballing or?
I don't honestly know of
Okay.
others. Yeah, but I think now that I've gotten a feel for D&D, it's like I'd be happy to explore them.
you
Yeah.
know a great place to try out new game systems? Gen Con.
Gen Con.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah, you went to Gen Con last year for the first
I,
time. So
I I did go last year. Yep.
Yeah,
you just jumped into all of this all at once.
I did.
Like,
I
I'll tell
decided,
all
you know
in.
what? I am a nerd at heart. Let's do it.
yeah, why hide, right?
Right.
Yep.
Well, growing up in the 80s and 90s, you had to hide that, but times
Right.
times changed, thankfully.
It's cool to be a
Did
nerd now.
yeah, yeah. Did you play any role-playing games at Gen Con then? I'm assuming no?
I didn't. I had
Okay,
one scheduled and something fell through. There was a scheduling
gotcha.
conflict and wasn't able to make it.
Okay. Did you like
Next
Gen
time I
Con?
go, I did like Gen Con.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Gen Con
awesome.
was cool. It was a whole new world, and Hudson was there actually with me, and fun to just wander around and kind of see all the different walks of life within that world.
Yeah.
Totally,
You had a
totally.
pretty good story. So this is how I'm gonna start out from how what I heard, right? Was like a friend, a mutual friend, was just like, yeah. And then Mark calls me and tells me that Jessen bought the floor of Gen Con. I'm like, what?
It's a true story.
It's a true story. That's exactly what happened. So take it away. What was like, how did it happen from your point of view?
So for anyone that hasn't been to Gen Con, they do an auction, and they're selling anything from regular dice sets to board games to dice
Miniatures
sets made
to
out of megalodon bones that go for thousands and thousands of dollars. Um, and I guess a handful of years ago, they redid all the carpet in the convention center where Gen Con's held, and they auction off squares of it. And I'm not sure what people purchase those for. I have no idea what they actually go for. But we had been hanging out in the auction and then gone off to do something else. And towards the end of the night, we're like, well, let's swing back through there and see what's happening. And as we walk in, they were just cleaning up shop. And I just hear one of the workers say, we still have one more piece of the floor. And I just walked right in the room. I said, I'll take it. And and there was no one else in there bidding at all. I think I gave him like I had a 20 on me. And I was like, here, because it all goes to charity. I'm like, here, and got to
That's
walk out with
awesome.
the last piece of Gen Con carpet. Yep.
I didn't hear that part of the story. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
right place, right time.
Super
Yeah.
cool.
Still got it down in my room.
You didn't frame it?
No, I'm still thinking I want to do something with it, but haven't decided. Right now,
Amazing.
it's just under the dresser.
So while we're wrapping up here, Justin, what advice would you give to a new player? Let's say someone's listening to this for the first time. They just got into role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games. What do you think?
I would say just be open to it, you know? Anyone that's thinking that maybe thinking what I thought, like, oh, that sounds kind of nerdy or this or that. One, it's not. You probably play a video game that's just as nerdy or
Yep.
whatever, you know, who cares what it is? Yeah, just be open to it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I think that there's a lot more resources for the game than people realize. I think it might look like a big piece to bite off, but there's, like I said, yeah, a lot of resources. There's a community of people. There's books. Hudson introduced me to the D&D Beyond app, which has been super helpful. It's not as big of an undertaking as you might think.
Awesome, awesome. Hudson, you got anything else?
I mean, just for other new players, like, biggest thing is it's just swing for the stars, like you never know what you're gonna hit, what you're gonna be able to pull off. It's the limits your imagination. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun first. Well, Justin, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We also really appreciate you playing with us in our
Yeah,
campaign, and
of
I can't wait to get more and more games and different games in with you. It's going to be awesome. So,
course. Thanks for having me. Hope to
yeah,
be.
absolutely, you'll be back for
Yeah,
sure, for sure. Right, Hudson? We're not going to scare him off, are we?
I don't know. If we haven't scared them off now, I don't know
I
that we can.
I know. I don't know how we haven't scared him off. Awesome. Well, hey everybody, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube and all the other social media apps, and we will see you later.